Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all my Geargia Yugioh deck profile. I've been getting a lot of requests for an update to the Geargia deck. It's a machine deck that focuses on some pretty strong XC summons with search power in the form of cards like Geargia X, and our Geargia series as well, or Geargiano series, to be able to overlay into many rank 3 and 4 monsters, and then utilizing the flip effects of the Geargia monsters as well. Tried to go for more of a pure build, but as I said, been getting a lot of requests for this deck, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the actual Geargiano monsters. We're running one copy of the original Geargiano. You contribute this card to target one level 4 machine type monster in your graveyard, special summon it from the graveyard. Its effects on the field are negated. So it's just a grab from the graveyard. That's why I'm only running one copy of this card. There are 3 monsters in the Geargiano series, and you just want to run one Geargiano so you have more targets for some of your other cards that we run in the deck, like our Geargia gear for its special summon power. I also run 3 copies of Geargiano MK2. When this card is normal or flip summon, you can special summon one Geargia monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position. So Geargiano monsters do also count as Geargia monsters, so you could grab Geargiano off of MK2 if you wish, but just being able to set up more of a field with our other Geargia monsters is a big help, and why MK2 is a definite 3 of, with the last of our Geargiano monsters being 3 copies of Geargiano MK3. When this card is special summoned by the effect of a Geargia card, you can special summon one Geargia monster from your hand or graveyard in defense, except for Geargiano MK3, but its effects are negated. You can only use this effect of Geargiano MK3 once per turn, and you cannot special summon monsters on the turn you activate this effect except for Geargia monsters. So the main play with Geargiano MK3 is to use your MK2 to special summon this card from your hand or graveyard, and then use your MK3 to special summon the final Geargia monster from your hand or graveyard. That is your Geargiano, to then use the 3 monsters that we summoned out to overlay into our Geargia Gear Gigant XG, which needs 3 level 3 monsters to do so. So these are the 3 monsters that you want to use for that setup. And then for the Geargia monsters, we run 3 copies of Geargia. With this card, when it's normal summon, you can add 1 level 4 Earth Machine monster from your deck to your hand, except for Geargia. You can also not declare attacks nor special summon monsters except machines for the rest of this turn, which isn't a big lockdown, but the main play with this card is to be able to grab our Geargia Accelerator and then have our rank 4 Xyz play into Geargia X using those monsters. I don't run Geargia Armor in the deck just because it's more of a flip effect for the search. Geargia can at least just grab the card off of a normal summon and have some other more consistent special summon options in the deck. If you wanted to run Geargia Armor, I can show you what you can take out 4 copies of the card, but 3 copies of Geargia Arsenal. This card gains 200 attack for each face-up Geargia monster you control. You contribute this card to special summon 1 Geargia monster from your deck, except for Geargia Arsenal and face-up defense. More grab power for some of our other cards. There are specific Geargia monsters that help with destruction power in the deck, so we can use this card to grab those monsters and then set them up with their own reset effects on the field. But the special summon power in the deck is also in the form of Geargia Accelerator. If you control a Geargia monster, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target 1 Geargia monster in your graveyard, except for a Geargia Accelerator, and add that target to your hand. So this card just gives you search options, but the main play is the special summon power of Accelerator onto the field from your hand, and you can search it off of cards like your Geargia. So then you can just have your rank 4 Xyz play right then and there using those cards. You are locked into machine type monsters, but we do have a variety of machine type monsters in the extra deck that we can at least go into. And then also the 2 copies of Geargia Attacker and the 1 copy of Geargia Anchor with the tribute power of Geargia Arsenal and the search power of Augur. I feel like you just need the 2-in-1 search power, or even it could be the 1-in-1, dropping down 1 copy for a copy of Geargia Armor if you wish, and then also dropping, let's say, 1 of the copies of our spell lineup that we get to for the other copies of Geargia Armor. But Geargia Attacker and Geargia Anchor, once per turn, you can change this card to face down defense, And when it's flip face up, you can destroy any number of spell and traps, monsters for Geargia Anchor, up to the number of Geargia monsters you control. So the more monsters you have set up on the field, the more you have with the destruction power with each one of these cards as well. But like I said, they're more specific and you can search them out with some of the other cards, so you only really need the lower numbers for them. With the last of the main deck monsters being 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, along with our infinite permanents. It's just the hand trap spot in the deck for us to be able to use for shutting down some more of our opponent's cards during their turn if they end up going first. For these spells, we run 3 copies of Geargia Change. Target 2 or more Geargiano monsters with different names in your graveyard. Special summon them, then immediately after this effect resolves. You can Xyz summon one Xyz monster using all summoned monsters, but no other monsters as material. You can activate 1 Geargia Change per turn, but being able to grab 2 or more means you can also just summon out all 3 of the Geargiano monsters, and then go into our Geargia Gear Gigant XG. If you only had 2, let's say at one point, to go for a Link 2 summon, you can grab those monsters, but then also being able to have the option to summon out those monsters onto the field is a big part of the deck, just for utilizing more of the setup power for you to be able to summon out those monsters onto the field and then just give you more resources as an Xyz play also. I also run 2 copies of Limiter Removal, just more power-up boost, declaring the attack or doubling the attack of all machine monsters you control, and also just destroying them at the end of the turn. But you can always use them for extra deck plays to get around the destruction of Limiter Removal. More draw power in the deck comes in the form of Iron Draw. If you control exactly 2 machine effect monsters and no other monsters, you draw 2 cards. So even before you go for the actual setup, you could go for your Geargia Augur, then your Geargia Accelerator, and then draw 2 off of Iron Draw, and then go for your Xyz play, because then you only have 1 more special summon after this effect, but it can give you some potential draw into some other better cards to use. Also 2 copies of Pot of Prosperity to grab some other specific cards we may need for some of our plays through the deck. 2 copies of Forbidden Droplet for added monster effect negation against our opponent, and the 1 copy of Call by the Grave to finish off the spells. If you wanted to run additional copies of Geargia Armor, you could always try dropping out the Iron Draws or the Limiter Removals for more copies of Geargia Armor, along with the 1 copy of the Geargia Attacker you can drop for more copies of that monster. For the traps, we run 3 copies of Geargia Gear. Special summon 2 Geargiano monsters from your deck and increase their levels by 1. You can only activate 1 Geargia Gear per turn. A perfect end of the turn special summon to grab 2 Geargiano monsters from your deck, making them level 4, so then you can use the both of them to overlay on the next turn into your Gear Gigant X as a rank 4 Xyz summon. And lastly, the 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, just more hand trap setup along with the Ash Blossom and Joy Spring that we run. And then for the extra deck monsters, running 2 copies of Gear Gigant X. Once per turn, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card to add 1 level 4 lower machine monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. When this card leaves the field, you can target 1 level 3 or lower Geargia monster in your graveyard and special summon that target. So big special summon plays in the form of our Geargiano monsters, because then you can just use the special summon of MK3 back onto the field to then give you more and more special summons. It's one of the fully utilized effects of Gear Gigant X, because it does revolve around the Geargia monsters to use, but on top of that you also have search power to use this card also. We have the 1 copy of XG Gigant in the deck. During your player's battle step, while an attack involving a machine monster is occurring, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls. Also, your opponent cannot activate card or effects with these effects until the end of the damage step. And also, when this face-up card leaves the field, you can target 1 other Geargia card in your graveyard, add that target to your hand. So more of a defensive battle strategy kind of card. Very fun for the setup, but we only run the 1 copy because it is more of a difficult card to summon out, needing 3 level 3 monsters. So you either have to resolve your MK3 effect or have the option of Geargia Change to special summon your monster on the field to then summon out this card. I also run the 1 copy of Wind-Ups and Mains as another machine option. The 1 Ghost Trick card as another rank 3 generic option. 1 Bagusko, 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Heavy Armored Train Wolf, and the 1 Sky Thunder Zeus for the rest of our Xyz monsters. And for the Link monsters, 1 copy of Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Moon the Closed Heaven, 1 Platinum Gadget, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and the 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. And as for some of our go-to plays in the deck, as I mentioned, if you go for the normal summon of Geargia Yugioh, you can then have the search for your Geargia Accelerator, special summoning out your Accelerator to the field. That gives you the 2 monsters for your Xyz play. You could also go for the draw 2 if you have Iron Draw in your hand before this play, but remember you'll have just the 1 special summon left for these cards, and you're locked into machine monsters with Geargia Yugioh, so you'll want to go for either your train option of Heavy Armored Train Wolf, being able to then have the attack directly option with this card, which is fun with the Train Wolf play, because once per turn you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, target 1 machine monster you control, it can attack your opponent directly, also other monsters cannot attack. So then after you attack your opponent directly with the Iron Wolf, you can then overlay into your Zeus, still being a machine monster also, thanks to that play. If you go for the MK3 play, you have to have more of your setup, being able to special summon other Geargiano monsters. So the MK3 play comes into more of an effect if you can set up cards like Geargiano in your graveyard, which you can grab both of them off of the Geargia Gear special summon, giving you the overlay of another rank 4 Xyz monster, because then you can have this be your end of turn play, activating those cards, going for the summon of these monsters, having the detach for your Geargia X, to then be able to add one of your other Geargia monsters from your deck to your hand. So if you have the MK3 in your hand already, you can use the Gigant X to add an MK2, normal summoning this card, giving you the special summon of MK3 and the other Geargiano from your graveyard to be able to overlay all of them together to go into the Gigant XG on the field. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Like I said, I've been wanting to update Geargias for a while now, just finally got around to it, and I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.